Oh, and that's a brilliant effort, and they've turned it right around. In the space of a few minutes, Saudi Arabia grab control of the game.
A very warm welcome back, everyone, to Dawri, the Saudi football podcast, in which we look at the latest from the Saudi Pro League. There's been plenty of action and controversy since our last show. With me, as always, is Arab News sports editor Ali Khaled. First off, Ali, before we get to the latest from the SPL, we like to keep an eye on other sporting events taking place in the region and the kingdom. And there's been some big ones this week.
Hi, Peter. Good to be back. Hope you're well.
Very and excited.
So a couple of things, over the last 10 days or so, Jeddah has hosted the West Asian Football Federation, the WAF Women's Championship. It's the 8th edition, I believe. And on Thursday night, it was won by an excellent Jordan team who beat an equally impressive Nepal, 5-3 on penalties after the final finished 2-2. Nepal have been excellent throughout the tournament. Jordan, one of the strongest teams in the region. Saudi Arabia had exited the tournament in the group stage. We know they're improving fast, but still, Nepal are a very, very strong team. And as are Jordan, who have been highest ranked of the Arab teams in the FIFA rankings, in the women's FIFA rankings. So, but it's great to see, these tournaments, taking more and more taking place. It's fantastic for women's football starting to take off in the region. The first edition of this tournament was in 2005. This is, as I mentioned earlier, this is the 8th edition. These tournaments will raise the standard of the Arab nations. We know the Asian teams are stronger, but these tournaments will help raise the West Asian nations. As I mentioned, Jordan has been the best of the Middle East, the best of the Arab teams for a while, but there was great performance from Lebanon and Palestine as well. Both reached the semi-finals. Obviously, they both lost, but look, it's like I said, it's great that these tournaments are continue to take place and that they're starting to take place in Saudi Arabia more. We know obviously about the Women's Premier League in Saudi Arabia. A lot of top class players from around the world are going there. A lot of Arab players are starting to are playing there as well, from Morocco and other nations. Hopefully, tournaments like this will bring some of the players maybe from Jordan, from Palestine, from Lebanon, also to the Saudi League. We'll wait and see on that. But great stuff. The other thing that's taking place this week, Pete, is the LIV Golf, or Live Golf, what do we call it, in Jeddah. It's the 3rd edition. And look, both previous editions were won by Brooks Koepka. We'll wait and see. Yeah. I mean, this is all eyes are on that one as well. Always a great event, really strong lineup as well. So we'll keep an eye on that and probably mention it next week as well. Hugely
strong lineup, Ali. As a major golf fan myself and a very poor player, may I add, it's fantastic to see Liv going from strength to strength with some of the great players, and of course, just new players joining, new additions to the circuit as well. So definitely got more than one eye on that. However, we are here for Dawri. And again, one man has dominated the football headlines in Saudi Arabia over the last week. And I'm wondering if our listeners can guess who it is.
Yes, I mean, indeed. Can only be one man. Cristiano Ronaldo, once again, has been in the news all week. Look, last week we chatted about all the big games or the couple of big games that we were looking forward to. And on Sunday, Al-Nassr, in the one of the Riyadh derbies, Al-Nassr beat Al-Shabab 3-2. Exciting game. But
great game.
Ronaldo scored the first goal of the match with a penalty. But the match was overshadowed by, should we say Ronaldo's obscene gesture, it was called, after the Al-Shabab fans kept chanting Messi's name. And of course, it didn't go down very, very well with Cristiano. And he went over to the Shabab fans and, performed this gesture. He got charged by the Saudi authorities and he was found guilty, banned for one match and fined 10,000 Saudi riyals, which is approximately, it's not a big thing for him, but like it's approximately $2,600. So
I believe that was paid off in three and a half seconds.
Yes, something like that. And he was also, I think, paid an extra 20,000 riyals, I believe, to cover Al-Shabab's costs because they put the complaint forward. Sure. So unsavory incident, and not the first one. There's been a few incidents with Ronaldo over the last year and all that. I mean, his presence in Saudi football has been obviously fantastic. He's, you could say mostly positive. But yeah, there's been a few incidents with fans, which have rubbed a few people the wrong way. And this is the latest of them. I guess, that rivalry with Messi is still there, the feelings.
He's human, Ali. He's human.
Yeah. But so that's what happened. But what it meant, Pete, missing that, getting that one match ban, it meant that he missed an unbelievable 4-4 draw between Al-Nassr and Al-Hazem on Thursday night. Incredible stuff. A match. So Anderson Talisca, someone who I speak about quite a lot on this show, Peter, I'm a big fan of him, scored a hat-trick, but Ronaldo was missing. And it looked like Al-Nassr had secured a win when Sadio Mane scored scored a late penalty in stoppage time. But Al-Hazem scored 9 minutes into stoppage time to force a 4-4 draw. Incredible stuff, which we will discuss with our guest very shortly because he watched it and, wrote a match report on it for us as well. This, obviously, the result would have been sweet news for Al-Hilal, who the points difference between the two clubs was 7 before. It's 6 now, but obviously the Hilal are still to play a big match this weekend against Al-Ittihad, the Saudi Clasico. But, Al-Hilal are just on top form, and a win will extend the gap to like 9 points. Look, last week, if you remember, Pete, we discussed they were playing Ittifaq, and we mentioned how Steven Gerrard's team had strengthened in the winter transfer window, how they had won their first game back, first win in 9 matches, really sort of a bit of a reset for Ittifaq, and we thought it might be an interesting one, but we did still think, obviously Al-Hilal will come up, will be victorious, and we were right. They won 2-0. So, so that Ittifaq renaissance was cut short, but, can't really blame them too much. It is Al-Hilal. But yeah, I mean, what it does mean that, this could, we'll see later, but this could end up being a really significant few days in the title race. Al-Nassr dropping points. We'll see, obviously Al-Hilal beating Ittifaq, Al-Nassr dropping points on Thursday, and now Al-Hilal playing Ittihad in that massive match. We'll wait and see. But yeah, could be a few days that we will look back on and say that's where the title race shifted significantly away from Al-Nassr.
Absolutely. Some big games coming. Just wanted to go back to Ronaldo. There was a brilliant snippet that I caught, Ali, of him watching, and I think he was blown away by the support he received from his own crowd in the 7th minute, where they were chanting his name, and a very emotional Ronaldo stood up and applauded the whole stadium. It was literally made the hairs stand up on the back of your neck. Brilliant stuff, and perfect time. Speaking of bringing the hairs up on the back of your neck, to bring in our Middle East football expert, John Duerden. Great to have you with us, John, as always.
Thank you. What a great introduction as well. Perfect. Thank you.
Hi, John. Hope you're well, mate.
I'm fine, thanks. How are you?
Very good, thanks. John, you watched the game yesterday. I mean, there's only one place to start. We will talk about Ronaldo later, but what a match last night.
Yeah, it was crazy. Remember Al-Hazem were bottom of the table when they kicked off, and it was just, first it was a fantastic advert for fantastic entertainment for the league. It was just great to watch, and just unbelievable how, especially the second half, how it unfolded 4 times. Al-Nassr took the lead, and you thought, well, this is it. Going to kick on, and the visitors have hung on in there, but the class will tell. But 4 times they came back, and I think overriding impression is, of course, is a fantastic game to watch, but how the defending was just calamitous. It really was, especially some of those goals that were conceded were just due to chaos at the back, especially as the game got later and later. I think it was Al-Hazem's third. The ball's bouncing around. There's lots of Nassr defenders around in the penalty area, but still, they allowed the goal. And yeah, I mean, for the neutral, fantastic in the short term, but in the medium term, maybe not great for the title race because you have to be beating the bottom team at home when you're up against Al-Hilal, who just always win. And it's just one of those things. It's a great match to watch, but I think it's going to be very, very costly for a team who just can't keep clean sheets at the moment. And I think defensively, if you compare them to Hilal are a bit machine-like and keep winning, but they're hard to score against. But I think it's been 8 games in the Saudi League now where Nassr haven't kept clean sheets, and that's going to cost them.
Yeah, John, I mean, you mentioned there, like this could be costly. I was just before you came on mentioning, could this be a decisive few days in the title race? It's a bit early as well, but I mean, a win for Al-Hilal in the next match, which we will come to shortly, it makes it 9 points, and that's a lot. I mean, we've seen Al-Hilal pull back 9 points. Never mind be 9 points, be 9 points ahead. So, yeah, it's going to be costly, and I mentioned Anderson Talisca. The brilliant Anderson Talisca scored a hat trick. I mean, you score a hat trick, and then you score a goal to put you in the lead in stoppage time. If you're going for the title, you really should wrap up this game. It shows, as you mentioned, just how poor their defending has been. Not only to concede 3 previously, but to actually, after all that, to take the lead in stoppage time and throw it away. I mean, how costly will that be? And we can't avoid saying it. Would things have been different if Ronaldo was on the pitch?
Well, it's interesting that I think in the past when Ronaldo hasn't played, Talisca's really stepped up and performed fantastically, and he looked devastated at the final whistle. I mean, he sank to his knees, and of course you couldn't believe like everybody else. But yeah, Ronaldo, you have to imagine that attacking-wise, the attack wasn't a problem for Al-Nassr. But of course, if you do have Ronaldo, then you do increase the chance of winning, but then if you score 4 goals against the bottom team at home, then you should win. I mean, there's no getting around that. And you can imagine if Ronaldo had been playing against Al-Shabab on Sunday, they conceded 2 goals. He wasn't very happy with some of the defenders, and they showed that on the pitch. You have to wonder what his reaction would have been last night had he been playing. So yes, I think he probably would have made a difference, but yeah, the issues were not in attack, scoring goals. As everyone could see, the issues were conceding 4 goals against the bottom team in the league, and that is hopefully isn't the end of the title race. And there's still, I think, 13 games to go, but it's a huge blow. Yeah,
but John, we mentioned last week, over the last couple of weeks, actually, Peter and I were discussing it with some of our guests that as professional as Cristiano Ronaldo is, like the ultimate professional, and just a machine that goes for everything, will never allow his standards to drop, or the standards of those around him. But we did mention that should Al-Hilal start to get away with it, will Al-Nassr, focus, maybe shift to the Champions League? I mean, we would expect they will still give it 100%. They'll still go for the league title. But, like we said, Al-Hilal are an absolute machine. And if it gets closer, to the finish line, and it looks like they're winning, will Al-Nassr, really start to focus on the Champions League?
Yeah, well, I think they would anyway, but surely if they win the Champions League, which is something they've never done before, that is a successful season, whatever happens in the domestic league. It's similar, but then if you do keep the pressure on at home, maybe then you do make it more difficult it's quite possible you meet Al-Hilal at some point in the Champions League as well, and maybe
that's right.
Keeping the pressure on them in the league forces Al-Hilal also to prioritise what they want to do. But yeah, it's so difficult. I mean, but with the attacking talent they have, Nassr could beat anybody. I think it could well be that the Champions League is the best chance of major trophy this season. I mean, there's still time to go in the Saudi Pro League. At some point, Hilal have to stop winning. They can't win every game, surely, even though it seems to be that way at the moment. And but to be 4 behind them in the league against any team, and it could be 9 points by the end of this round, against any team that's going to be tough to get back. But against a team that wins almost every game, then you just can't see it happening. But I think, I think you're right. It's going to be the best chance.
I mean, one thing we can say, John and Peter, is that these two clubs do seem, at the moment, possibly the two best clubs certainly in Saudi, but possibly in Asia as well. So it's going to be very exciting, very intriguing to see what happens in the Saudi Pro League and in the Champions League, because, a lot of people, including ourselves, are saying we really can't see past those two as the winners of the trophy. So, yeah, we'll wait and see there. And speaking of Al-Hilal, John, I want to touch back on the match from last week. Ittihad, who had, after the break, started with a win, a positive result for Steven Gerrard, who had extended his contract, been, given a bit of freedom in the transfer window, more than any other Saudi club, really. And so they come back with a win, but Al-Hilal kind of put a stop to that pretty quickly.
Yeah, it was a real professional performance, just did what they had to do. I was very impressed with Milinkovic Savic, and he scored a goal, and he's got grown and grown this season, I think, and of course doesn't get headlines of Mitrovic and one or two others, but he was a real figure of authority in the middle. Ruben Neves, don't want to say it, Pete, but maybe he didn't go to Newcastle, and he seems to be enjoying life in more and more in Riyadh, and it's just amazing to see a team of these 24 games they've won in a row. It's just outrageous, really, and you feel that if they have to, maybe they've also got another gear because they just do it so professionally and so competently, and they're a fantastically organised unit, and it's just can't see anybody stopping them, really. But you just hope that, at some point, but things can change very quickly as well. An injury here, red card there, and they drop a couple of points, and then suddenly the pressure's on. And maybe it won't be so simple, but at the moment, it's just this team's looking dominant. And as you mentioned, not only in Saudi Arabia, but also in Asia, you just can't see any team stopping them. In Asian terms, the knockout format gives teams a chance to hold on and maybe sneak a win in elimination game. But it's at the moment, yes, Al-Hilal are head and shoulders, I think, the best team on the continent.
Yeah, I mean, up next for them, not an easy match, the Saudi Clasico against the reigning champions Al-Ittihad, who, John, I know your views of Al-Ittihad. We've discussed them a few times. Obviously, they're having a poor season. There's no way around it. But you watched their last game as well, and, while there's all sorts of speculation about Benzema, and obviously he's had a lot of injuries, Abdurrazzaq Hamdallah continues to be pivotal for them. There are 2 goals in the last game. How do you see his influence on them? We expected him probably to leave last summer, and he's still there and firing.
Yeah, I think I've said before, I'm a big fan of his. He's a spiky character. He always wants the ball. And even when someone like Benzema comes into the team, Hamdallah has a confidence. Someone say maybe more than confidence to still want to be the main man. And he pops up and scores when his team needs him. And that's what you want from a striker. And recently he's been doing that more and more. Maybe Benzema's injured today. I mean, there are reports that he might be out, but maybe not a bad thing because he's been a bit cursed of late with his own goals and missing penalties and his goals being disallowed. I think also, with regards to today's game, in Ittihad, they can sneak into the top 3. They've been improving a little bit of late. So I think the rest of the league will be hoping that they can get something from Al-Hilal to make the title race. But also, the 2 teams meet again in the Champions League very, very soon. And I think that's maybe also having an impact on today's game. How do Ittihad approach? I mean, again, Ittihad they can go for the top 3, but not going to win the title. Asia is the best chance of winning the 3rd Asian Champions League, which would be a huge deal for them. So maybe again they might focus on that. But it's going to be very, very interesting to see what happens today. But someone's got to stop Al-Hilal sooner or later, and it could be. It's got to be maybe a team like Ittihad because they have the attacking power to hurt Hilal, but can they keep them out of the other end? I'm not so sure.
Yeah, I mean, last week we were looking at the fixture list and we said, obviously before Ittifaq's match against Hilal, and we said Al-Nassr might look at that match and hope for a favour from Ittifaq, who had a bit of confidence going into the match and maybe thinking that could be one of the games where Hilal drop points. Obviously, that didn't happen. Al-Nassr, especially after the draw, the 4-4 draw against Al-Hazem, will be now looking at this one and saying, well, could this be the game that, Ittihad do us a favor, or Al-Hilal drop points? As you say, it's a winning machine, but they surely can't win every single match. So we'll wait and see. And again, just touching on the point you made, you mentioned Hamdallah, probably, I wouldn't say blessing in disguise if Benzema doesn't play, but let's just say Hamdallah deserves to start after his last performance.
Definitely,
and could be the difference maker up front for them. So like a very, very interesting match. And of course, I'm sure this is something we'll discuss closer to the time, but the two play each other in the Champions League. That's absolutely massive. I mean, massive for Saudi football. But again, just keeps like we said, it's Al-Nassr and Al-Hilal who are like really the front two for that Champions League. So we'll wait to see what happens there. But a shock there, and Ittihad will be in the reckoning as well. As you said, they are improving after a very poor spell. So this is. You mentioned again Ittihad sneaking the top three. And we'll wait to see Al-Ahli as well, who looked to have, I wouldn't say like wrapped up third place, but looked comfortable in that third place position. They're between Al-Ta'awan below them and the other. And the top two, of course. So could develop into an interesting one between Ittihad and Al-Ahli.
Yeah, especially if we end up not having a close title race, it could be these kind of narratives will become more interesting for us as well as observers. That the Jeddah Giants fighting it out for the top three. But even with Al-Hilal, nobody would have expected last night that. The game would have ended in a draw between the second place and the bottom. So it just goes to show it's not always when your rival has a tough game, they might drop points. It can happen any time. And I think it could be a game that we completely don't expect, and Hilal lose it, and maybe in last-minute controversial decisions, suddenly everything changes. So I think for the neutral, that would be great. But if it doesn't happen, you have to hold your hands up and just say, what a fantastic team Al-Hilal are, and just do it just a juggernaut heading for trophies, so it seems, but you never know. And there's still some big games to come.
Speaking of big games, John, as always, going to put you on the spot. Prediction, please, if you would, for the classic match that is Hilal versus Ittihad.
I'm going to go for the Ittihad win, just on the logic that just because Hilal have to lose sometime. And I think after what happened last night, in some ways it would be a nice balance if Hilal also dropped points. So I'm going to say 2-1 Ittihad. Hamdallah gets both goals, one's a penalty.
Big shout. And a penalty thrown in there as well from our Middle East football expert, feeling confident. Great stuff. Same question to you, AK.
So, look, should that happen, should Al-Ittihad win, as John mentioned earlier, that would be great for the title race for sure. But, it's just... I never feel right going against Hilal, whatever the circumstances. I'm going to go for Al-Hilal win, 2-1. I do think Hamdallah will score for Ittihad, but probably Mitrovic will score twice, knowing him, and so I'm going to go Hilal to Ittihad 1.
Okay. Normally don't get involved in these scenarios because I leave it to the experts. I'm just here to make sure that everybody plays nice. But I am going to throw my hat into the ring today because I fancy a very, very high scoring draw. I think there'll be goals, and I'm going to sit right on the fence. And I'm going to go for a draw. As always, John, an absolute pleasure to see you and to have your insight on Dawri.
Thank you very much.
Football podcast. We hope to see you soon. So much going on in our world of football. And that's it for another episode. And as we always say to you, whoever your team is, we wish them luck this weekend in what's promising to be an absolutely thrilling season in our very own Saudi Pro League here on Dawri.